Hello, welcome to the video, which is going to be a buyer's guide for the Islabike Cnoc or Cnoc, I still don't know how to pronounce it, series of bikes like this. I've bought and sold quite a few of these, and I've also fixed quite a few of these in the course of buying and selling them because I've bought them all second hand. And I was about to do a video on fixing the pedals on this bike, and I'll show you what the problem is with those in a moment. And I thought, well, before I do that video, why not do a video on the sort of process that I would go through when checking one of these over before buying it second hand. In case you're not familiar with Islabikes, they're great bikes for children to learn to ride on and then get into cycling. They're great for a couple of reasons. Firstly, because they're lightweight. Secondly, because they're made of pretty good quality components. They hold their value very well, so they're worth repairing and keeping in nice condition, because then when your child has grown out of it, you can pass it on to someone else to enjoy, usually with very little loss of investment as long as you've looked after it. So I'm going to go through the sort of checks that I would do before buying one of these, and I'll talk about some of the common problems. In fact, I'll do that now. If you don't want to watch the whole video, the things that I've found that go most commonly on these, or most commonly need attention, are the pedals. You see that is not spinning freely at all. And the wheel bearings. That one's not too bad, but sometimes they make a terrible noise and they feel all crunchy and horrible. So let's get into the sort of checks that I would do before buying one of these. So I always start by just having a look at it. Sounds very simple, I know. Have a look at the stabilizer mounting points to see if there's any chafing there. One of my particular pet hates, and what often causes an awful lot of damage, is a tailgater, sort of a tow-along bar that usually clamps around there and causes quite a lot of damage. Have a look at the bar ends to see if they've scuffed away. Have a look around the saddle to see if that's been scuffed away. This one's not too bad. The pedals almost certainly will have been. And have a look underneath at the bottom of the bottom bracket as well. That one's very clean indeed. Next then, have a look at the chain. See if it looks like it's been taken care of or if it's rusty and horrible. This one isn't rusty and horrible. While you're there, have a look at the slack. If this is all the way to the back of the dropout and there's still slack in the chain, then the chain is probably quite worn out and you probably need to budget for a new chain. Have a look at the tyres. Quite often these bikes will have been cycled with flat tyres, and you'll see a whole load of sort of chafing marks where the cords are coming through. Have a look at the tread as well to see if it's been a bit of a skid master's bike. This one, like I was as a child anyway, this one isn't too bad. So while you're having a look, don't forget the obvious thing. Does it have a puncture? Are both of the tyres blown up? These ones are soft, but they're fine. They're holding pressure well. Then have a look at the wheels for any obvious signs of broken spokes. And finally, have a look to see if there are any sort of rusty bolt heads, like these ones here, to indicate that it's been kept outside. Now, there's nothing wrong with keeping a bike outside, of course, but it does have an impact on its resale value and its condition, so that might be something that you want to consider before making an offer. So the next thing that I like to do is to push the bike backwards and forwards with the front brake on. The front brake should hold the wheel firmly. That's kind of obvious, isn't it? But hey. And then also rock the bike backwards and forwards with the front brake held on. That will help you work out if the head bearings are either not properly adjusted or damaged. Also notice here, you can test the bell if you want. Yeah, that works. The brake lever should release straight away, instantly. If it doesn't, that suggests that the cables need some attention. Compare on this bike, the front one with the back one. So to me that says that there's either some pinching in this cable path somewhere or the cable needs some lubrication. So the next thing to do is to pick the bike up. And then this is the second part of assessing the steering, I suppose. Move it from side to side. Should feel nice and smooth, shouldn't feel any crunchiness. This one's pretty good actually. These bikes have got steering stops as well, so that the wheel can't go too far and cause an accident. So that's stopping there and that's stopping there. So check that they're even. Sometimes things slip. So check that it's allowing an equal amount of steering angle both ways, which that one is. Now, pick the bike up by the front wheel, give it a spin. We're looking for a few things there. So looking down from above, you're looking for whether the wheel is true, i.e. whether it is a proper circle or whether it's wobbling all over the place either that way or that way as you're spinning it. Then you're listening for bearing noise. If it's really bad, you'll feel it. It's best described as a crunching or a rumbling. This one's pretty good. So the last thing to have a look at with regard to the bearings while you've got the front wheel off the ground is to just grab the wheel and try and push it from side to side. So I'm trying to push it towards either of the fork legs here. There shouldn't be any, or at the most there should be a very, very slight bit of play. If there's too much play, so if you can feel it wobbling from side to side as you're pushing and pulling it, then that's another indicator that the front wheel bearings might need some attention. They might not need replacing, they might not just need a service and a bit of adjustment. These are cup and cone bearings, so there is some adjustment there. But they might also need new ball bearings in them. The last thing you're looking for is how long the wheel spins for, and that will help you work out whether these brakes are binding. If they're not adjusted properly, one of the pads can stay in contact with the brake rim there, and it can stop the wheel spinning freely. And I certainly wouldn't tolerate that on my bike because it's sapping energy that could otherwise be used for going faster. So that would be something that you'd want to fix, or that I would want to fix anyway. Having done with the front wheel then, move on to the rear wheel. Turn the pedals. It's a bit harder to assess noise on this one because you've got the free wheel going. Here's an example from another bike of what a bad wheel bearing sounds like. I'm not sure if this is the freewheel hub bearings or the hub bearings themselves, but either way, I'm going to be servicing the whole lot. So let's have a listen. I'll just remove my microphone. Hopefully you could tell that's a pretty bad one. There's not any play in it actually. So I guess that probably means it's more likely to be the freewheel bearings, but the whole rear hub is going to be serviced. I'll do a separate video on that when I get to this bike. You can keep pedaling and listen. So again, looking for wheel trueness, listening for the bearings, seeing if the brakes are binding. They might be a touch actually, not sure. I'd have to look into that in a bit more detail. So just one more thing while you've got the back of the bike lifted off the ground. Just spin the cranks round. What I'm doing here is trying to feel for any crunchiness or listen for any noise from the bottom bracket bearings, so the bearings inside here. I'm not holding the pedals to do that because the bearings in these pedals are damaged. So when I wind the cranks by the pedals, that feels terrible, but I'm actually feeling the wear in the bearings in the pedals, not in the bottom bracket. These ones feel very good. I'll show you another way of checking for play in the bottom bracket bearings when we've got the bike back on the ground, but that's just another way to feel for any wear, any real crunchiness, any collapsed, failed balls within the bottom bracket. So again, with the bike back on the ground, put the rear brake on hard. This one's coming back, I don't know whether you can see that, this one's coming back pretty close to the handlebars. So this probably needs some adjustment. In fact, it looks like there's almost no cable coming through that side, so it looks like it's overdue for some adjustment anyway. But can the rear brake lock the wheel? Yes, it can. With the bike on the ground again then, try spinning the pedals. That was not too bad. But I know because I've had a look before doing the video. This one is crunchy and horrible. It's absolutely rock solid. Well, it's not solid, it is turning, but that pedal should spin freely, and that's just jamming. And you can feel it sort of notchiness as you're spinning it like that. So that pedal needs some attention, and that's going to be the subject of another video. While you're here then, support the bike like that. Just get the cranks and try and wiggle them. Now I'm pushing them both in or both out. And what we're looking for is play in the bottom bracket bearings. Next thing to do then is with the front brake on, just check that the freewheel hub, so I'm pressing down on the pedal there, just checking that the freewheel hub is locking properly, which this one seems to be. Okay, that's it. That's my brief Islabike Cnoc buying guide. This is a Cnoc 16, obviously it covers the 14 as well. A lot of it's relevant to the larger ones as well, although next one up has gears, and I didn't cover that in this video, but I'll do another video on those in due course. So I hope it was helpful. Please give it a thumbs up if it was, and consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. For now, thanks very much for watching. Happy cycling!